So after years of ranking Final Fantasy stuff like heroes, stories, music, artwork, villains, final bosses, battle system, and every single game, I've always been asked, what about tactics? Where's tactics? So today we're going to fix these lists because I've finally played Final Fantasy Tactics for the very first time. And to be honest, it's actually shifted my opinions on every single list more than I expected. And look, I'll be honest, I've always respected tactics for what it represents. A brilliant tactical spin on the series' formula, full of political intrigue and philosophical depth. There's lots to think about, but finally playing it showed me just how special this game really is, how sharp the writing is, how haunting its world feels, and how much its tone sets it apart from every other Final Fantasy. So yes, we are re-ranking every single Final Fantasy list I've done thus far to now finally include Final Fantasy Tactics. But before we get to that, don't forget to like and subscribe as always, and comment below, leave your thoughts, leave your placement of where you would put Final Fantasy Tactics on all of these lists. So let's get to the first one, which is stories. So you can see right here we have the original list for stories ranked. I didn't include 11 or 14, but now I can finally include tactics. Well, I mean, when it comes to story, Final Fantasy Tactics easily earns a spot in the upper half. Its political drama and moral ambiguity set it apart from the rest of the franchise. Where a lot of the Final Fantasy entries focus on like emotional, character-driven storytelling, Tactics is layered with betrayal, religious corruption, and social tension. And yes, there is some emotional, character-driven stuff as well, but it's not necessarily the driving point of the story. It's about navigating the grim realities of power and control, and that alone earns it a place above maybe mid-tier story entries like Final Fantasy IV or Final Fantasy V, though it stops short of emotionally resonant heights of like Final Fantasy X or VII for me. So I would say Tactics comes in at number 7 on the list because while I do like a lot of the story moments and some of them can feel a little bit cinematic, it just didn't grab me in the way that I thought it was going to. Still, the script overall just felt like Shakespearean in tone. I really liked it. I loved the voice performances of the Ivalice Chronicles version. It was a really great and engrossing adventure. Ram's quiet struggle against systemic corruption gives the game a weight that a lot of Final Fantasies they haven't gotten to that point, and I really like this spin on the stories. So ultimately, it's a story that rewards close attention. I mean, it's dense, it's serious, it's not afraid to leave players questioning who are the good guys and who they really are, and actually who are the bad guys as well, because yeah, you don't really know until midway through the game. So for me, it didn't really match the emotional punch of Final Fantasy X's Sacrifice, Final Fantasy VII's Tragedy, and even the ensemble cast of like Final Fantasy VI, but it more than holds its own as one of the most mature narratives in the franchise. That balance of brilliance and restraint is what makes it sit comfortably for me at number 7. So let's move on to Heroes Rank. This is one that I was really interested to find where Ramza might fall, and a lot of you guys have asked me, where would you rank Ramza? So here it is. So as you can see here, this is the original ranking I have for everybody. Where is Ramza going to fall? So Ramza Beowulf, he's an underrated gem of a protagonist. Honestly, after playing this game, I really bonded with him in a way I wasn't expecting. He isn't defined by bravado or destiny. I mean, although there is a little bit of destiny stuff intertwined, you do see that at the very, very, very end, but I don't think it was really elaborated on as well as it could have. But otherwise, he's a character grounded in conscience over everything. Throughout Final Fantasy Tactics, Ramza consistently chooses to do what's right, even if it costs him everything. I mean, his status, his name, and his safety. In a world consumed by ambition, his refusal to compromise makes him one of the series' most principled heroes. He's humble, he's thoughtful, and he's quietly determined, which makes his journey one of personal integrity rather than grand fate. Again, there's one line towards the end of the game that says something about his blood or something about fate or some. It wasn't elaborated in a way that I would have liked to make it seem even more mystical and more grandiose, but still cool nonetheless. I would place Ramza at number 6. just above Zidane, but below Tidus, because he stands shoulder to shoulder with a lot of the series greats, but he just doesn't have the same iconic presence as Tidus or Terra. Ramza, though, he's just a little bit more subtle. His strength lies in quiet conviction rather than explosive transformation. That understated approach gives his story a tragic nobility that few other characters achieve. What also makes Ramza more compelling is his contrast to Delita. One follows morality, the other ambition. Their mirrored arcs add complexity and depth to what otherwise might have been a simple simple good versus evil story, Ramza isn't celebrated in his world by any means, often branded a heretic, but his legacy overall and his unshakable sense of right and wrong linger long after the credits. And that's the mark of a truly great Final Fantasy hero. Next up, we have the villains. Now, Final Fantasy Tactics has a really interesting take on the villain because you don't actually know who it is until almost over halfway through the game. So let's take a look at that. So here's my original villains ranked list. Where is the villain of Tactics? In Tactics, the primary antagonist role, I would say, ultimately belongs to Fulmarv, the cold, calculating vessel of the Lucavi demon Hajmal. Though he is not the final boss, he is quite the presence. While Delita's political rise grabs much of the story's attention, again, like I mentioned before, being that kind of mirrored image to Ramza, Fulmarv embodies the darker, supernatural undercurrent beneath Ivalice's wars. His role as a father twisted by faith and power, especially in the tragic conflict involving his children, gives him surprising emotional depth for what really could have been just a simple one-note villain just for the sake of the story. There's a lot more to him than this. I would say placing Fulmarv at number 9 on the list feels appropriate. He's certainly an effective villain, but not the kind that dominates the narrative from start to finish like Kefka or Sephiroth or something like that. Instead, he's more of a symbol representing the corruption and manipulation that plagues Ivalice's ruling elite. His calm, righteous demeanor masks something really horrifying, and when his true allegiance is revealed, the stakes rise dramatically. It's much less about Fulmarv himself and more about what he represents, the rot within holy institutions. What keeps him from ranking higher is that Tactics spreads its antagonism across so many forces and so many faces. The Church, Delita, the Lucavi demons. Fulmarv's late-game transformation and connection to Ultima are great, but they don't carry the same singular narrative focus as other main villains in the series. So his mix of tragedy, menace, and thematic importance make him a great addition to the middle of the villains list. Now, next up is the music of Final Fantasy Tactics. Now, after playing the Ivalice Chronicles remaster, I really did find myself enjoying the music more than I thought. So here's my original list for Final Fantasy music ranked. Where does Tactics sit? So Hitoshi Sakamoto's score for Final Fantasy Tactics is a really wonderful masterclass in atmosphere. Unlike Uematsu's melodic, hummable themes, Sakamoto's compositions are orchestral, they're dynamic, and often at times somber as well. The music here gives Ivalice a sense of grandeur and age, perfectly matching that medieval tone that this game has. A lot of pieces evoke both beauty and tension, enhancing that feeling that every battle is truly part of something bigger and more tragic. So as far as where I would place the soundtrack of Final Fantasy Tactics among everything else, I would say just above Final Fantasy 15 and just below Final Fantasy 4 at number 7. Tactics, by comparison to the rest of the series, I mean, it's more cinematic and less about catchy motifs. It's a soundtrack that really excels in mood and texture. The brass and percussion swell in moments of chaos, and the strings carry a sense of melancholy throughout. I mean, it's certainly not a soundtrack you hum along to. I mean, at least I didn't, but it's one that helps you immerse completely in that world. And that difference in tone is what makes it so special. Tactics music isn't trying to be like in your face or anything like that. It's really restrained, it's regal, it's reinforcing the political intrigue and the moral gravity of the story. So for fans who love like orchestral telling through sound, this is a really great thing to listen to and to enjoy while you play as well. So I think the placement here acknowledges that brilliance, that quiet brilliance rather, while recognizing that the classic Uematsu eras are still the best of the best. Hang on, before we talk any more Tactics, did you guys know that almost 90% of the people that watch my channel are not subscribed? So if you want to stay in touch with every single video I release every single week, I would love to have you. Otherwise, if you want more content on the daily, I would love for you guys to follow me over on Instagram, where I'm posting daily JRPG stuff, and it's a really great and unique and quick way to interact with you. Anyway, more Tactics right now. Next up are the battle systems. Now, I did actually cover Tactics in my original ranking, but I hadn't finished it. I hadn't fully played it through, so let's see if my thoughts have changed. So originally, this tactical style gameplay I had at number 7, and it's referred to as the charge time system. The charge time system in Final Fantasy Tactics is incredibly rewarding. I really found myself enjoying this gameplay loop. And I'm not like a serious strategy RPG nerd, but man, I really get sucked into these games when everything clicks. Every move here required forethought, positioning, timing, class synergy, and even your terrain. All of that comes into play here. It's less about raw reflexes and more about what is the enemy going to do next. And that kind of mental engagement is exactly what I need to get sucked into a game, and it makes every victory feel earned. So I would move it up from number 7 to number 5, and that puts it in very strong company. Obviously, the top spots are reserved for systems that blend pace and strategy seamlessly, like Final Fantasy X's conditional turn-based system, which I had at number 1, or Final Fantasy VII Remake's refined ATB real-time kind of thing. I mean, Tactics doesn't obviously aim for that rhythm. It's deliberately slower. It's like playing a game of chess. It encourages careful planning instead of reactive play. That slower pace might not appeal to everyone, but for tactical RPG fans, it is endlessly satisfying. So what makes it special is its flexibility. I mean, you can build absurdly creative party compositions with blends of different skills and different jobs. It's really great. The sky is the limit here. So that kind of customization depth makes Tactics battle system a serious playground for experimentation, easily deserving of top 5 placement. So next up for the rankings is artwork. I did originally include Final Fantasy Tactics, so let's see if the position changes or not. So when it comes to Final Fantasy Tactics, the front cover perfectly captures the tone of the game. It appears to be somber. I mean, it has this kind of subdued palette that feels kind of steeped in medieval atmosphere, and the depiction of the characters crossing under a stone bridge, immediately sets a grounded, more serious tone. It doesn't scream like Final Fantasy adventure in the traditional sense, aside from obviously riding chocobos, but there's something happening here. These characters might be at war. And it's also a great example of how minimalist design can be pretty powerful. There's no overabundance of characters or effects, just a handful of figures and a strong sense of perspective that immediately draws your eye into the world. So while it might not be the most immediately striking cover in the series, I think it perfectly fits the game's identity. So where would I re-rank it if I was going to? I think I would leave it at number 9. I'm quite happy with where it's positioned in the grand scheme of the list here. And while I do enjoy the original Final Fantasy Tactics art, I do like the Ivalice Chronicles art as well. I feel like it draws more attention to the characters of the game, which is kind of more so what the story is about, although there's this overarching narrative thing. But you could really frame it as Tactics being Ramza and Delita's adventure or story or something like that, even though, yeah, we follow Ramza for a majority of the time. But Tactics, I don't think I would change. And Ivalice Chronicles, if I was to insert it in ahead of this, I don't think I would. But I like them both. Now, next up, we have the final bosses of Final Fantasy. Where does the final boss of Tactics stand among everything else? So you can see here the list for my original ranking for final bosses. Where does the final boss for Tactics hold up? So, of course, Ultima is the final battle of Tactics. It stands among the most thematically fitting endings in the series. I mean, after hours of navigating this human corruption and deceit, you face something that's divine. It's been teased for the entire adventure. It's literally the embodiment of false holiness. Ultima's design is both angelic and terrifying, really reflecting that central tension of the game, as faith as both salvation and manipulation. Of course, we know that as manipulation for how the story panned out, but overall, I mean, the fight setting, the music, the atmosphere really creates this sense of awe and dread that few Final Fantasy finales achieve. Where would I rank it? I think I would actually put it just below Arden at number 6. Ultima is not quite as emotionally explosive as Sephiroth or Kefka. It certainly earns place as one of the greats through thematic resonance. Ultima's presence transforms the narrative's political struggle into a battle against something truly transcendent. It's a moment where tactics shifts from human tragedy to this mythic confrontation, a reminder that even divine figures can be corrupted as well. Very interesting. It's great brain food. And honestly, the way that this final battle was panned out was very cool. I like the twists that I certainly didn't see coming. And mechanically, yeah, the fight is challenging without being totally unfair. The multi-phase structure of the battle keeps tension high, and the soundtrack adds gravitas to every moment of the battle. And Ultima isn't just a final boss here for Tactics, it really is the manifestation of everything the story has warned against. Blind faith, unchecked ambition, and that illusion of purity. The narrative weight here is really what solidifies the placement on my list. So I'm saving the best for last here. I'm sure this is the question that all of you have been asking, is where would I actually rank Final Fantasy Tactics among everything in terms of like games, like overall package. Of course, my number one is Final Fantasy VII. I mean, I'm sure you guys know that if you've watched my videos at this point and watched all my ranking videos, yes, I do have a very heavy Final Fantasy VII bias. What are you going to do about it? It's just who I am. But where does Tactics rank among all the games in the series? So you can see my original ranking list right here. Tactics, I think, is going to fall at number 7, just behind Final Fantasy XVI. Tactics is brilliant, it's deep, and it's honestly unforgettable, but it's also a very different kind of Final Fantasy. It doesn't offer that same sweeping journey or accessible character ensemble as Final Fantasy VII or 10 or even 6, but instead it trades that for rich strategy and intricate political storytelling. And that's not to say that there aren't great characters here, but it's just more of a broad kind of narrative. It certainly is one of those games that rewards patience and introspection, and I dare say that if I was to re-rank Tactics in a couple of years, it might actually even bump up higher after a few more playthroughs. Tactics gameplay and writing are top tier, but it really just didn't grab me in the way that I was hoping for. And that's not to say that it was a disappointment or I should have played it when it came out, like a lot of you guys said on my recent review. I get all that, but it was just a really great experience. I didn't 100% love it. Still, I really respect Tactics because the influence from this game can be felt everywhere. Even looking at modern strategy games, like even from Square, like Triangle Strategy, which I would consider the spiritual successor to, it really just carved out a space that few RPGs have matched in terms of tone and tactical sophistication. So in many ways, Tactics feels timeless. I mean, its themes are still very relevant today, its world is fascinating, and the mechanics are still satisfying to master. This really is a game that you can play again and again and again and again and get something different out of every single time. So I would say placing it at number 7 acknowledges that as one of the best crafted and most mature entries in the series, even if it lacks the universal accessibility of the mainline numbered games. But there's still so many wonderful things here and so many great hours of gameplay that you can experience through Tactics. So there you have it, re-ranking all of my lists now to finally include Final Fantasy Tactics, because again, a lot of you guys have been asking me for the last few years, where's Tactics? Where's Ramsden? Where's this? Where's that? So I hope that clears it up. No number ones, of course, today. Nothing's going to dethrone what I have as number 1, but this was still a really wonderful experience, and I really do look forward to playing this again, or maybe some sequels or prequels or whatever. If you want some more in-depth thoughts on Tactics, I encourage you guys to check out my review that I posted up last week. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and comment your thoughts down below. Otherwise, we will see you again on another video next week. Bye-bye.